I do want to acknowledge that we have a few trustees here today. We have Corrine Carreras and Lisa Bear with us, as well as Kim Clarkson, of course. And Susan Carr was here earlier and did have a family event she had to go and attend. Because I'm the last speaker, I want to take the opportunity to thank the organizers for putting this together. And I want to thank all of you for being here. We appreciate, as trustees, the support that is being raised through events like this for public education. We agree 110%. Education is being underfunded in this province, without doubt. And that's been that way for a lot of years. The Maple Ridge School District has had to cut education budgets for more than 10 years. We've closed 6 schools. We've cut maintenance and administrative budgets so much that the last 2 years when we were looking for cuts, there was no more to cut in the maintenance area. We just couldn't do that because we'd cut it so deeply so many years previous. In the last 2 years, the district cut 70 positions beyond the number required to address declining enrollment as a result of too little funding being provided by government. That's 70 fewer people available to pay attention to students. How can anyone believe that's good for families or our students? And now we're being forced to consider further increases to class size, which we hope we might be able to avoid, permanently reducing school supply budgets, and you've heard it before, the possibility of eliminating busing. Unfortunately, when you don't have anything else to cut, you have to look at areas like that. And again, how can anyone believe that's good for families or students? Because much of that involves passing additional responsibilities and costs along to families. Now, school trustees are democratically elected to deliver public education in their respective communities. And to do their best work under difficult circumstances, they need 3 things from government, which have been denied to them. The first thing is they need more financial certainty and fewer surprises. Trustees need to be able to plan appropriately for the long term. And governments, this government, needs to stop surprising boards of education with budget challenges that there has been no consultation on and makes really long-term planning impossible. Things like the cooperative gains mandate, the lack of funding for annual increases in project implementation, and the recently announced administrative savings requirements are all examples of fiscal policies that have resulted in significant cuts to education. Number 2, trustees need to be involved in direct discussions with government on what is needed to properly fund public education. This board has tried to have that discussion. Last June, we asked the Minister of Education to come and meet with us and talk about our funding situation. We asked again in February of this year, acknowledging that there were a few things on his plate last year, but would he please come and meet with us and talk about our funding issues? To no avail. We've been advised the minister cannot come and meet with us. Finally, and most importantly, trustees, citizens, need the respect of government. A lack of respect is demonstrated when government does not acknowledge the difficult fiscal choices trustees are having to make every year. A lack of respect is demonstrated when government does not consult in advance with democratically elected boards of education before they establish the provincial education budget or make key policy changes. I'm going to share something with you that hasn't been talked about earlier, and that is that the Minister of Education actually signed a protocol agreement with the BC School Trustees Association last December, which inferred government would be committing to a greater degree of consultation than had been demonstrated in the past. The day the agreement was signed, government announced the elimination of funding for adult graduated students needing secondary school upgrading. That was the day that agreement was signed. And they did so with no consultation. 2 months later, government announced the requirement for boards of education to cut $54 million from their budgets with no consultation, no warning, and no acknowledgement that boards had been cutting their budgets for years. More recently, Bill 11 was introduced with no advance consultation on critical pieces of the legislation. How could anyone consider that as an appropriate way to co-govern the public education system? And you've heard it earlier, in our opinion, Bill 11 further erodes any independence boards of education may have had. This despite the fact that most, if not all, of the innovation which has made the education system in BC so progressive has come from the efforts of educators and the grassroots of the local school districts. We are all very proud of that, despite some of the challenges that have been faced in this province. We've received copies of letters sent to the ministry by boards of education from throughout the province. All of those letters indicate the boards of education who represent the citizens of this province expect much more from our government. They expect a greater degree of respect, fewer surprises, more consultation, and bottom line, they expect fewer cuts. We agree with all of them. Our students deserve better, and we will continue to voice our concerns until our students' needs are met. Thank you.